Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond Influence, brought to you by Later. I am Kwame Appiah, your host, joined by my amazing co-host, Scott Sutton. And today with us, we have one of America's favorite couples. Dare I say, maybe even America's favorite couple right now.
You could say.
Love is Blind's newest success story. We are very grateful to have with us today, Daniel and Taylor Hastings. How are we doing today?
I'm good.
We're so good. Thank you so much for having us. This is so fun.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like we've been fighting tech issues and getting started, but yeah, so glad to have you all on. And it's got to be a whirlwind right now, right? You're just kind of everywhere. Everything just landed. Life's finally out in the public. Like, just maybe walk us through the last, a little bit. How's it been for y'all?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's. I think a whirlwind is the best way to describe the last few weeks. Of course, like the anticipation from the last year, knowing that the show is coming out and knowing that our story was still hidden, our marriage was still hidden. There's a lot of anticipation and honest anxiety. You just never really know how people will perceive you or how things will look. So
yeah.
Now that it's all out, I definitely feel a sigh of relief, but it's come with a new wave of stress, but also like great joy, and then stress, and it's just been every emotion at once for the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a lot. And it's been kind of, I guess, what we've been sitting on and waiting for a year, but it's been amazing and it's been a lot of fun, and we're very busy. But it's a good busy for the most part, and so we're just kind of taking it one day at a time still. But yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks, but pretty cool.
That is awesome. I mean, what would you say is, the coolest thing that's happened to y'all in the last, what is it? It's been like a month and a half, 2 months.
Ooh.
I have a couple that come to mind. Daniel and I got to become Facebook friends yesterday, so that's pretty cool.
I see this notification come through my phone, and it's a Facebook, and I don't really use Facebook very much. And it comes through my phone, and it's Taylor sent you a friend request. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll accept this one.
Sweating it out, accept, deny. So yeah, we're friends.
No, so it's funny, for our audience, you guys missed out when we all jumped on. And so just inside baseball, like we talk to a lot of folks, and we have a lot of different folks in reality TV. And I'm not ashamed, my wife and her group of friends, like I have a group text with them. And before we get on, I'm like, okay, y'all, get me up to speed, give me the tea, like help me understand. And I'm like talking to Kwame, I'm like, I'm supposed to ask about following and unfollowing. And then they pop on, they're like, oh, they're talking about us already. And I was like, oh, foot and mouth. So this is going well. But congratulations on the Facebook friend status.
Thank you. Yeah, big things. And then I got a PR box from Taco Bell. So that's also been like a life highlight so far for the last few weeks. Yeah.
I'm jealous of that. Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perks of being married to Taylor.
What's been the most exciting thing for you?
I thought it was pretty cool. So we got a couple messages from some Minnesota sports teams, and we're both huge Minnesota sports people. So the Twins reached out and asked if we wanted to go to the opening day game in a couple weeks here, which I'm super pumped about. The Vikings reached out, so it's like all of like my childhood dreams coming true. Yeah. And so yeah, that's been pretty cool and pretty fun to see.
A lot of fun stuff to come.
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, I'm a big avid Seattle sports fan now. I never really had a home sports teams. All I did, I watched a lot of soccer. So I loved Chelsea FC over in England, which is really funny because my wife's name is Chelsea. But as you can see over my shoulder, it says everyone watches women's sports. So I've been taking a great pride in going to as many women's sporting events as I possibly can. Little unknown secret about myself. One of my life goals is to own a women's soccer team.
Really?
Sweet.
Yes, it is. Yes. I just feel like there's so much more growth availability in the sport in general. And I just also feel like whenever I have like the battle you're online. You see a lot of online stuff. You go to women's sports, you go to men's sports, and the comments are very different on both sports. You know what I'm saying? And so just like the energy and the vibe that's created from women's sports is just something that I feel is so much more empowering, if I'm being honest with you. And for some reason, I don't know if I'll have a daughter. I don't, but I just envision myself that if I had a daughter and she became a professional athlete and she played soccer, it would make me the happiest dad ever.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so I don't know why it conjured up that thought a long time ago, but we're talking about sports and I wanted to share that dream. But with that being said, a lot of cool things are definitely in your future. You're going to do a lot of cool sports stuff. A lot of stuff is about to come up. Is there anything that if you could, I don't know, snap your fingers and do as an experience that you feel like you would, breathe out into the world right now and say, I want to do this?
What do you got?
I mean, I think it'd be, I probably have some that are like individual and then some that are as a couple. And I mean, we've traveled quite a bit this past year. Of course, being under the radar as much as we had to be, but I think it'd be fun to do some, overseas traveling experiences together. I've never been to like Ireland and Scotland and Italy, like all of those areas that I think are just like amazing areas. I think it'd be fun to like, I don't know, do some fun traveling together over there and have some fun experiences.
Daniel's also never been to Disney, and I am a Disney adult. So I would love to take him and do like the whole bit, like the fast passes for every ride that we can just like zoom through everything, get the good food, try.
I would love to. I will go to Disney, and then maybe this is a hot take, but I'm just not a huge ride person. Like, I'll go on some rides, but like, I wouldn't wake up that morning being like, I can't wait to get on the whatever roller coaster. That's just not who I am.
We'll work on that.
I'm not like, I wouldn't call myself the biggest Disney person or the biggest ride person, but I took my kids to Disneyland for the first time last year. And just when you walk into like the Star Wars land and it's like you're freaking in the movie.
Yeah.
Like even the most tame roller coaster, just like the immersion and like the attention to detail, you're just like literally transported to some other place. Like the whole Star Wars ride is like,
yeah.
I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like I was terrified when Kylo Ren's like 6'9" towering over me. I'm like, yeah, I was like, this is crazy. But no, it's such a cool experience. And like, if you want the big rides, it's like the other places have bigger rides. But I think like Disney's attention to detail. This is a Disney rant that I did not get. But nonetheless, like
we're going to Disney.
Conviction, I love Disney. So.
Yeah, you want to know the funny thing about which. I'm going to tell you something. I think it's going to make you happy. So the first time that I ever went to Disneyland was with Chelsea. She's a big Disney adult as well.
Knew I loved her. Yeah.
And so the funniest part about the story is she planned on taking me there for my birthday because I do absolutely love Disney movies. We watch Disney movies so much. And so she knew I would love it. She planned to take me there for my birthday. We were in LA to see a Lakers game. And she's like, I've got a surprise for you. I'm going to take you somewhere. And like the whole time she's like, all right, wear this. Like, she has a Mickey Mouse shirt in her bag. She's like, wear this to, maybe match with what I've got, blah, blah, blah. She sets this whole surprise up, right?
Yeah.
And then her goal is to like unveil this idea of Disney once we get to Disney. And she's held this secret for, I don't know, a month or so. And we get into the Uber, and you know what happens when you get into an Uber? It says, now headed to so-and-so, right? And so she literally, before I get into the Uber, she gets in the Uber ahead of time, tells the driver, please don't say where we're going. I get into the car, and the minute I get into the car, the driver says, all right, we're going to go. He clicks the, passenger accepted, and it's like, now headed to Disney.
Dang it.
Jeez.
Immediately, the shock on her face. But this part will make you happy. We did get there, and it was right after our season. Somebody recognized us and was like, oh my gosh, here's fast passes to everything. So it could happen. It could be in your future. I think Yeah, I'm manifesting it for you.
Well, I'm glad there was a happy ending to that story because that's love.
Yeah, it was. And we did some amazing rides. We wanted to go. There's like a hidden restaurant behind the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Yeah.
Yep.
And the food's actually really amazing. And there was a super long line. We weren't going to get into it. And then a couple recognized us and was like, hey, you want to have dinner with us? And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, so we ended up getting into it. Yeah. So it was just an entire day of really cool experiences.
My experience at that restaurant was my kids not eating any of the food and having to get a corn dog from like the corn dog stand that was right down the way. Like sprinting
that will be
$80.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I mean, now that we're getting into the heat of things, we'll glide past the incredibly scintillating conversation of Disney, right into a little bit of your personal lives. I know that Taylor, you just got off of work today. Tell us a little bit about how things are going on the work front.
Yeah, work is good. We're just short staffed, which I think is healthcare in general, everywhere, every department. So some days are better than others, but patients are more sick than they used to be as well. So there's a higher acuity for sure. But the group of nurses that I work with are just phenomenal, and they are the whole reason I could even go do the show to begin with. They were incredible. My manager was super great about, letting me just be gone for 3 weeks. I started working once we got back to Minneapolis and we're filming, but I love them. I consider them my dearest friends. So it's all about who you work with. Makes a huge difference for sure.
So it's funny. So my wife's a nurse.
Okay.
She was in oncology and did that for a long time. And it's funny because we have friends who are nurses. And I don't know if you find this to be true, but like nurses have just seen some stuff and just have like a very different appreciation for like the human condition. And it's just funny talking to them because I think like I have a reasonable tolerance for things, and then they're just like, oh yeah, I remember this one guy doing this, and you're just the stories that come out of hospitals and these different clinics. So I think if people aren't thankful for nurses and like what they have to experience on the regular, that would be highly traumatic. Like if anything happened on the regular to my wife or her friends, like it would be a completely traumatizing experience for me.
Yeah, I travel nurse during COVID, so that I think I cried every day when working in COVID units. But I'm so grateful that's not a reality anymore, and I'm a better nurse because of it. So it's definitely improved since working in COVID units. But yeah,
I feel like you've been able to find balance, like coming back into things, like working, and now you got all the show stuff hitting. Like how just managing all of life, is that like manageable? Is it like, do you feel like you'll be able to keep that up, or
for now it's manageable. I feel overwhelmed in general with life right now, just with the attention that we've gotten, and obviously seeing your face on a TV screen is an adjustment, and then opening Instagram and your face is there, a stranger talking about you, like for more reasons than one. But then when I'm at work, it's also like patients are starting to recognize me. And it was kind of like my escape when we were filming, and I didn't have to think about it or talk about it. But now that it's out and people know me and my coworkers can ask me questions about it, it's kind of added like another level of overwhelmedness. But I was telling Kwame earlier, I was in this procedure in the operating room this afternoon, and I had to be staring at a screen, just focusing on moving a wire like millimeters at a time. And I thought to myself during it, like, this is awesome that this is all I have to think about and concentrate on right now, because outside of that setting, my brain is a million places right now. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we don't get as much context into Daniel's life in terms of like his work.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know a little bit about your background as well, Daniel, what you do, how you've been able to carry on. And I think, speaking to Taylor's point, how you're balancing it and kind of being able to focus in on things, whether you're full head in there or full head out.
Yeah. So I I work in sales. Ever since I've been in college, I've been in some form of a sales job, whether it was selling copiers or IT stuff. Now I sell and finance medical equipment. So I'm not in the healthcare space, but I sell to the healthcare space. So I don't sell an actual med device, but I'm kind of a middleman between hospitals and med device companies to facilitate acquisition of capital equipment if necessary. And it's interesting, I like the job. Again, I love the people that I work with. That when some of the days are harder than others, like that is what really gets you through. Um, and so honestly, it's been tough. Like it's been tough keeping that balance because in sales, if you're not in there 150% getting after it, then you're going to fall behind. And so it's been a lot. And it's been a big shift of like trying to figure out how to balance that while balancing, this past year being married and like trying to figure out how to be a good husband and anticipating things for the show coming out. And then now the show's out and things are getting crazier for us. And so it's a lot. Like, thankfully I have some flexibility with my schedule, but um, it's definitely a new challenge. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's something that I'll continue to do. I guess we'll see kind of how the next stage of this life of our life goes here, but yeah, we'll see.
It's funny, like I think about those both y'all's jobs, and like those are two of the jobs that I like seeing sales firsthand constantly for whatever the last decade. It is a fairly thankless job. I feel like a lot of people have this view of like, oh, this like, swab football player guy who just like runs around and goes golfing, and like versus, hey, I'm like doing a million cold calls and email sequences and having to do
Right.
endless follow up and just being hooked to a quota and constantly having expectation, and then it resets every month and every month. Just having all of your income or a huge portion of your income constantly on the line, and if you're off or something's off or the business isn't, it was really interesting. I was talking with someone in the med device space, and they actually sell like a solution to sleep apnea, and I was like, Ozempic came out and all of our clients are healthy and they don't have sleep apnea anymore. So our whole market is like gone. And it was like a really weird consequence. He's like, I'm really happy for people. They're getting healthier, but it's like my whole business just evaporated and I'm a sales guy. And it's just like things that are out of your control. And so what do you do? And I love that point you said, if you can't be in 150%, there's a very real impact to you, to the company, and stuff. I have one question. It's more lighthearted on this because I think about like, there's no way in my life. Kwame knows me. I'm pretty direct. And like, if I have an idea, you're going to hear about 30 seconds later. We're going to figure out if it's a good idea or a bad idea. But I'm like, there's no way in hell that I could keep a secret for a year. Like, how impossible was that? Like, and I don't want you to break NDAs or something if you guys like went off and told the whole world, but it's like, I'm like that. There's no way in my life that I could sign up to like hold on to that for that long.
I thought we did pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we did pretty good. Minnesota's a tough place because everybody knows everybody and everybody likes to talk about everything. And so all it takes is one person to just whisper it to someone that they know of like, oh, we heard this might be happening. And then it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
then they know one person, and before you know it, someone comes and tells us about it. And we're like,
Right.
we know we didn't say anything, but like, how'd you find out about that? And so, we kept it a secret pretty well. We were pretty careful.
Our cast list, I don't know if you knew this, Scott, was leaked while we were still filming in Minneapolis. So everyone knew who was on the show here in the Twin Cities before
we even
anything was finished. So, I mean, all it took, we were still allowed to live our lives. Like, we could go on dates and go to Target, and like, it wasn't like we were in hiding for the last year, but someone saw us and they had recognized us from the cast list that was leaked. I mean, people figured it out.
It added a weird stress to the whole thing too, because, you're in this bubble, in the pods dating, and then you're still kind of in a bubble on the, vacation, but then you come into the real world and it's like, okay, we're going to get into the real world, but like, nobody's really going to know. We'll stay under the radar. And then you get into the real world and you get your phones back and you're getting like 20 texts a day from people who have seen the cast list. And they're like, oh my gosh, is this is this true? Is this true? And it's like, I can't tell you. Like, what do you expect me to say to that?
Yeah.
Like, and so like we're trying to film and we're trying to keep it a secret, but like all of our friends and family are reaching out. Obviously, family, knows, but like people that we haven't talked to in a while are sending us texts, and it's like we appreciate that you're excited about it, but like we can't talk about it. We can't confirm or deny. It's like so. It was just another layer of like the craziness.
Mhm.
I feel like I would have
Yeah.
a terrible poker face if anyone's like, they're like, did this happen? I'm like, no.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's a lot of added weight to it. I don't think there's anything out there that's comparable in terms of just like mental. There's a lot of difficult things out there in the world, but when it comes to the scenario of protecting your peace, keeping your privacy, like filming Love is Blind is arguably one of the hardest things, like all the way from filming till release and post release, dealing with everything. I remember Chelsea and I always say, like, one of our best times ever together since we met
Mhm.
was we're constantly either being filmed or monitored to some degree. Obviously you have your nights. I feel like people don't know this part, like when you go to sleep there's no camera around.
Mhm.
So you get that time to yourself. But the first time that we were like out in public by ourselves and just hanging out and being together after filming started, we were just like, our producer told us, hey, we're done filming for a little bit, we'll start a little bit later, you can have like 20 minutes of pool time. And it was like Chelsea and I just went out into the pool and just like had the best 20 minutes ever, because it was the first stress-free 20 minutes that we've had since we met.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally from the moment that that you meet again, I don't know, did y'all fly together in, or
No.
y'all? Yeah,
Mm-mm.
right. And so once you have your reveal, you're hidden again, and then you go out and then you re-encounter for the first time when all these cameras are on you, and it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
A
saying?
lot.
It's it is like, you love this person, you want to talk to them, but you're like not allowed to make eye contact until they say like start talking.
It's wild. Yeah.
You understand. Someone understands.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. As for someone who's not educated, what's the eye contact thing?
Okay, so basically this is how me and Chelsea scenario rolled out, right? The boys get driven to a van, to Mexico in a van. I know y'all went somewhere else, but for your vacations, you get driven to your honeymoons in vans with the people who are on your side of the pods. And so I get there and it's like, release one person at a time, right? Because you're not allowed to see your partner on the other end until cameras are rolling. And so Brett gets sent out. Brett is not allowed to make eye contact with Tiffany, right? You can basically, like, you're standing like 10 feet apart, facing the same direction until it says cameras are rolling. Then you can like come say hi and embrace or whatever. And like, we're put in this Jeep and the cameras are rolling. So like the whole time, it's tough because you literally cannot, it almost feels like you can't interact to any capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be breathing the same air because it could in some way sway your energy until cameras are on and going.
Yeah. They were literally standing in between us in the elevator, going up the elevator. Like we weren't allowed to even stand next to each other unless there was a camera on us. So I think that like the pods, the cameras are hidden so well. So I like forgot they were there half the time. And then we got to Honduras and I was like, whoa, this is really intense. Like this is a whole new ball game. So
yeah, I mean, they wanted every interaction, every conversation, everything filmed, and so like that's the reason why it's not just like it's not like just like I don't know, like put us in like little rats in an experiment. Well, kind of, but no. But yeah, it was just because they wanted everything filmed.
Yeah.
So I get it, but it was still like
it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to manage, but I think so. I don't know if y'all know about this little backstory. The reason why that happened is there were couples in season 1. There's a very specific couple. I won't throw out the name yet.
Okay.
You know what? Heck, we're on a podcast. We're gonna live our lives, man. Whatever. It was Jessica and Mark, right? so everyone gets to, first season, everyone flew together,
Mhm.
right? And there were no cameras on them. And so they got to basically be in each other's energies, talk, like decompress,
Yeah.
right? Have all these conversations. And then by the time they got to Mexico, the energy was completely different.
Mhm.
And everyone was like, what happened? Right. And
Yeah.
so from that point on, they were like, okay, in order for us to be able to tell the audience everything that's happening in this story,
Yeah.
so that they know, like, from reveal when they loved each other so much, and now all of a sudden they're either acting different or whatever, like what happened within all that context. So they said from now on, no cameras are going to be on them. They're not going to be able to exchange any kind of lovey-dovey or non-lovey-dovey exchanges unless the cameras are on them and filming. So that's a little backstory for all the Love Is Blind faithfuls.
Mhm.
I'm just imagining a scenario where like Kwame and Chelsea get in a fight and that 20 minutes off camera by the pool.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you have to recreate the entire fight. Just go again, get
You're
mad.
gonna need it from the top.
Oh man. But
That's so funny.
with all that being said, lots of funny little tidbits and secrets. Love Is Blind is an incredible experience. If you come out of it with all the rewards that you want in life, then you're a very, very lucky human being. And I think obviously y'all won. And it's so funny whenever I talk to people and they ask me like, oh, about Love Is Blind, they were like, oh, did you win? That's the context they use it in. And ultimately, I do think we all won.
You're
And,
like, I won right here. Look at it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not a game show. But but there's a lot that goes into it. And so throughout your experience, going through something that is in some way phrased as a competition show, what do you think was the most difficult thing for each of you when you were actually going through the process?
I think mine was not only the most difficult, but the most empowering in the same breath. I, in the past with dating, was heavily reliant on my friends and my family. Hey, check out this guy's pictures. Do you think he's cute? Should I date him? Hey, do you want to swipe for me on a dating app? Because I can't stand it anymore. Like, I was always asking for opinions and insight from those closest to me. And of course, devices are taken from you for the experiment. And throughout the entire Love Is Blind process, I really had to rely on myself, and listen to my own gut, which is something I've definitely ignored in the past. So as uncomfortable as it was at times, now looking back, I'm like, wow, that I got this incredible human as my husband and had like the time of my life in this Love Is Blind experiment because I trusted myself and I went with my gut. So
yeah, I mean, that was going to be very similar to my answer was, thankfully going through this experiment, like, forced me to be in a place where I had to trust in what my gut was telling me every step of the way. Because as you know, like, everybody has opinions about everything at all times. And it'd be so easy to be like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe this is crazy. I could just, do it this way. And it was like, no, like, every step of the way from the first date that we had to, when it came time to propose, and like every step of the way, it was like, okay, what is my gut telling me? Do I feel right about this? Do I not feel right about this? And then am I going to actually listen to it and make a decision based on that? And I think I had done maybe an okay job in my life of doing that, but not nearly to the stakes of what this was, And so I think it was difficult because there were big decisions, but it was also very rewarding to be like, okay, like, my gut was right, and now I trust that so much more now.
yeah.
I love that. It is that I think about just like dating relationships, and it is such a complex topic of like stakeholder management, so to speak, of like your whole life trying to weigh in with their opinions. I'm curious, like, coming out of that, were there people who, like, and you don't have to name names, but like, did you have people who were like, oh, like, whatever, this isn't going to last, or like, this isn't real, or like, for the most part, is it just like everyone's got your back, everyone's supportive? Like, in some of these reality situations, it's like, you see like the dad is like, oh, this is all BS. There's no way you can find someone and marry and love them in whatever time frame. I'm curious if you had any of those naysayers.
Yeah, so a lot of context that was left out of the show. When we were filming, I felt like it was my entire personality, or it was being made into my entire personality. I was previously engaged and had called off that engagement 3 months prior to a wedding. So we talked about it constantly throughout the whole season. It was a part of the narrative. And when it wasn't included at all in the final edit, not only was I kind of surprised by that, but then it also gives so much context as to like my parents meeting Daniel. My mom comes in a little protective and kind of skeptical of what's happening and how quick this is going and why we're actually continuing this process. I think both of our families kind of thought if we met someone, we would maybe just date on our own time and not actually follow along to get to a wedding day at the end of it. So yeah, I'd say in the beginning for sure it was a tough conversation because my family had seen me almost get married and it fall apart, and that was heartbreaking at the time. So definitely it's been more support than anything since that initial meeting of Daniel. And then once they met him, they loved him. So now he's the favorite child. They're like, Taylor who? So
Yeah, I think both of us had either, friends or family. I mean, any kind of hesitation from those close to us was just out of a place of love and wanting to protect us. And so, of course, at the beginning, I had people in my life that were, asking questions of like, "Oh, are you sure?" Like, but then they saw us together and they met Taylor, and it was like, "Oh, like, yeah, okay, this is actually real. Like, we see that you guys are, you're not just doing this to do it. Like, you're serious about it." And there's something special here. And so, yeah, very quickly it turned into a lot of support.
Super interesting about the engagement.
Yeah.
It feels like such a huge part of your, and not to pump it up, but like it's a huge part of like your story and context.
Yeah.
And it's just super interesting that would be left out.
Yeah, because Daniel hadn't had a serious relationship in 10 years, and I had been previously engaged, so I had been very close to almost married, and he hadn't, had a serious relationship. So there was like this huge difference in our backgrounds and our love lives in the past. So I was also fascinated it wasn't kept in.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the skepticism is it's warranted to a degree, right? And so it's understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, before I got married, before I said yes at the altar, I had a lot of thoughts, right? A lot of things that were going through my mind, myself as a human being. And I remember some of my, I had family members who were like, "Hey, like you don't have to go through with it if you're, overthinking or doubting in any way." And I was like, honestly, this is an experience that it feels like nothing else, right? And there's no way to quantify or no way to define it in a way that I think people externally will be able to like follow you in that journey throughout your whole process. But I know and I feel in my heart, my body and soul that this is what I want to do. Even if I have a lot of questions, my questions aren't about why I should say no. I want to find out more reasons why I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so ultimately, that's how I processed it. And I know that, there were family members whole, if you pull some from both sides. I know there was one of our family members who basically said, "Hey, like, I'm okay to not meet your partner for the first 6 months. We'll see if it lasts." Right. And honestly, that's okay. Good for them. Right. Because ultimately, like, we're all pretty cool now,
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, even if you look at statistically, like just marriages on their own, like divorce rates above 50%.
Yeah.
Right. Out of the Love is Blind journey, there have been, I think, 13, maybe 14 marriages. And out of those, only 3 haven't worked out. And so Love is Blind is actually more successful than
the conventional way. Yeah.
Yeah, the conventional way. So ultimately, we've gone through that part to now have the ability to say, hey, like, honestly, what I'm doing feels right to me. And if you were with somebody for 5 years and you were going to get engaged and married, that felt right to you.
Yeah.
Right. So your way feels good. My way feels good. And neither of us should judge each other. So I hope that people who are getting into this experiment from now on will be able to relay that message. If there's anything that I could pass on to people who are now about to go through Love is Blind and possibly get married, it is that your way works for you, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
Preach, Bon.
It is
Well,
wild.
Mhm.
I was just, it's been really interesting from my perspective, just kind of seeing kind of firsthand a lot of Kwame's experience from like this like one step removed lens. Cause it's like, it would be one thing if you just met your partner and you went through this experience and you got married. But then it's a whole nother thing to have it be completely publicized, have zero privacy around it. Like it's so funny because like Kwame's interaction with the public, it's like the first question's like, "Oh, you're Kwame, right?" And then it's like, "You're from that show." And then like the an inevitable question, like the next question is like, Are you guys still together?" That would annoy the shit out of me. It's like, and I'm just like, I just think about like, I don't know if people fully grasp like the context of like the life shifts. It's not just being married, and it's not just the way in which you're married. It's all this other stuff that you now have to deal with, of like the notoriety, the questions like from the general population. And like some are very great intentions and they want to root for you. And then others are just the haters. And in real life, we're online who are just like, "Oh yeah, you guys are never going to work." And like having that when you're walking down the street trying to get groceries or something, it's just, it's an interesting kind of change. But it's, to Kwame's point, like it seems to be very, very successful. And like it, I'm more and more convinced of the methodology. I'm like, they need to create like Love is Blind as a service, like non-reality show.
Yeah.
It'll just be like a new dating app or something. This will be our next $1 billion idea. But
I'm in.
Love is Blind as a service.
So I'm super curious, coming out, we talked about all the opportunities, you guys have been kind of thrust into the light a little bit. You have these opportunities coming. When you think about the social media aspect, and kind of a lot of people can kind of go the social media, the brand deals, that direction. Some people just want to go and live their life and kind of, or have a balance. Have you guys had like a really intentional conversation about how you want to approach your influence and brands and social media presence? Is it something you want to lean into, kind of, step back from, continue your career? I'm curious how you're approaching it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations as of late. I think up until the show came out, it wasn't really something we talked about too much, just because it wasn't a reality for us, or even like a conversation. We weren't even being approached for anything. But now that these things are coming at us like every day, it's definitely something we've been talking about more. Personally, I always plan to keep my nursing license active. I always envision myself taking care of people. I feel like it's in my bones. Like I'm good at taking care of people. So I do plan to stay working as a nurse, but I am also very much entertaining the thought of doing it slightly less than I am right now, just taking a bit more time. And I think we're both kind of looking at it as wow, what an amazing life opportunity we've been given with Love is Blind, and then obviously finding each other. But how many more like amazing opportunities and fun experiences we could do as a couple together, and spend more time together and have a lot of fun doing it. It's definitely something that we're starting to think more seriously about now.
Yeah. I don't think we've had the conversation of, hey, we're 100%, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's still early, it's still early for us a little bit. I mean, if things take off from a social media standpoint, and that's something that we can use to support us financially and give us cool opportunities to do together as a married couple, then I don't see why we wouldn't take advantage of that. But yeah, I don't know. It's so weird because we've never like had these conversations before. Like, I don't know. We've never really thought about it until now. We're like, oh, we're here. Like it's time to, explore this. And so we'll see.
Honestly, it scares me, if I'm completely transparent. I never want to monetize our relationship in any way. So it's a very fine line in my brain of where does that cross over? I never want our relationship to feel like it has a price tag. So it's something that I'm very cautiously talking about and dipping my toes into.
You just need to find the balance of, regardless of how we decide to move forward with our life, keeping our relationship and our marriage at the forefront and at the core of any decision that we make.
Yeah.
Whether that's to go into this type of stuff full time or not. We still just need to keep us at the center and as the most important piece of it.
Right.
Yeah, I like the approach. Honestly, I mean, it depends. Everything is a conversation. Around everything in a relationship, there has to be a conversation. There's going to be compromise on both levels. There's going to be decisions made. As long as it's something that makes both of you happier and better off in the long run, that's what matters. As for Chelsea and I, when we initially, got put out into the spotlight, we thought about how it would go. And, Chelsea was thinking about how often she worked and how many hours she worked. And she thought to herself, like, is there a way that I can, have a bit more of a transition, get some more time to myself, get some more time to work on our marriage and, kind of just like build our home from there. And so she transitioned out of working full time into a bit more part time, and then did the stay at home wife thing for about a year. Um, and it was a blessing for her. During that time, we got to travel a lot more. Because I was working in tech, and tech's got a bit more flexibility in terms of your time off and things like that. Whereas working at a clinic in speech pathology is very different. And so we got some opportunities and we got to do things and we got to see a bit more and spend more time together. And that's what ultimately in that time worked for us.
Yeah.
And now she's back to working at a school and influencing part-time as well. And as somebody who has a full-time job but also influences on the side, I think if you can balance it out and you can find a way to still make sure you prioritize and spend time with each other, I think that there's a lot of blessing in it, because it gives you opportunities and it gives you some, financial backing to really start planning for your future.
Yeah.
If you want, there are possibilities and opportunities that I didn't know I would have at this point in my life that, I may have sooner than later. And so
Sure.
all of those things are blessings. And so that's how I would phrase it. Ultimately it comes down to what y'all want to do. But I do think if you can find a good balance,
Yeah.
there's a great way to stay within the profession that rewards you,
Yeah.
rewards your soul. And then there's also a way to tap into this external extra kind of, you can call it a side gig or a side business, but some people find a way to wrap it into a whole business that rewards your pockets.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And if you do it in a good, if you do it in a healthy way, it ends up being less about leveraging your marriage, more about talking to people about the things that you are going through in your life and the things that you do and use.
Mhm.
Like that's when it comes to working with brands that actually speak to your everyday life. Like for me, I immediately was looking for like running shoes. I was immediately looking for travel stuff like suitcases,
Mhm.
which I still, when I travel, I take my wife's pink suitcase. So I still need to.
I can attest to that. It's a vibe. Where's Kwame? Oh, there he is.
Can confirm.
So cool things that wrap into your life will make this so much easier. So when y'all decide to get to it, feel free to give me a call and I'll debrief you with as much as possible.
Yeah.
I'll bring Chelsea into the conversation as well because we've been through it and we're happy to pass on everything we know.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
For sure. And go ahead,
I was
Scott.
going to say, I love, Taylor, what you said about staying true to who you are. It was interesting. I was going to ask you, because, you mentioned earlier, like how passionate you are about your work.
Yeah.
Is there a world where you would highlight, some of what you're doing on the nursing front and some of the causes you're passionate about, on social as a part of the way that you kind of express kind of yourself and your interests and like your causes on social? Or are you like, I just want to keep it to like the public stuff, the Netflix stuff, and like I'm going to try and keep this nursing thing for me?
Yeah, no, I would shout it from the rooftops. And I've actually, March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And my mom is a colon cancer survivor. So that's kind of how I found my home doing my job and how I became as passionate as I am. And I've been filming. So I work for a very large, healthcare is huge in Minnesota. And I work for a very large healthcare corporation in the Twin Cities. And so I've been kind of a face to Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month for our health system this year. And I filmed once already at the hospital, and I'm filming again next week with a news channel to kind of promote people coming in for screening procedures. And so I definitely plan to share all of those clips when they're live. Yeah. I've talked about even starting my own business prior to all of this. The preparation that patients have to do for colonoscopies is really intimidating and really complicated and stressful. And so it's something I've answered questions about a million times in my 7 years of doing GI. And so I had even thought about a way to, help with the preparation and answering, being a resource for patients that need it, just making it a little less intimidating to get more people to do it, because it truly does save lives. So sorry, that was my soapbox.
Nah, you're good. And honestly, you can keep going about it because it's something that I had a really interesting recent experience with.
Yeah.
So from about October to December of 2024, I fell pretty ill, and it was progressive, and then it was slow to start and then kind of got very violent at a certain point, to where, like, I wasn't able to eat as much. I lost 20 pounds during that time. I was having fevers every single night, and I knew there was something going on with my gut.
Yeah.
Right. And in the beginning of January, I got a colonoscopy, actually, because, there was a certain point in which the symptoms were so close to, colon cancer or colorectal cancer, something that, nobody wants to hear about. And, snaps to your mom for being a survivor of that. It's wow, that's so powerful to be able to, come on the other side of that. I think, going through it, I always, like, when I was younger and growing up, there were so many points in which I thought to myself, like, I should go get a colonoscopy because,
Yeah.
I'd have stomach issues here and there. And I never did. And I was never pushed to do it until it became a situation where I was facing, like, life or death.
Mhm.
And I feel like at that point in time, you might have waited too long, right? And I think it's really important for us to be really conscious of it and make it feel like more like a yearly checkup kind of thing. And I'm not saying go get one every year, but make it something that feels like I just want to know what's going on inside my body, because my gut health is just about everything. And, very, very fortunate. I came out on the other end, knowing that I had ulcerative colitis, which, has some symptoms that can be relative of. But going through that experience and then now having a GI doctor who was a great doctor, put me on some medication that I take, and now I'm back to myself. But I feel that passion in it because, in all honesty, like, going through that process and realizing that colonoscopy, like, changed the trajectory of what my life was at that time and how I feel now and what it could have been. So I don't know, you're passionate about it. I wanted to share my little story as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to get some answers, and that, I mean, your quality of life, I can imagine, has improved immensely since getting that diagnosis and being treated for it. And that's, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So that's admirable that you took the steps to have the procedure done. I'm glad you did.
For sure. And within that same vein, as we talk a little bit about health, Dan, you kind of brought up a bit of context about, something that you were passionate about that was, entailing to our health as an overall. So I'd love to, just give you a bit of a moment to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting, kind of how our stories of life have kind of like aligned. Taylor talked about your mom and her history with colon cancer, and then
My dad on the show.
your dad, yep, with Merkel cell, and then my mom. As if people have watched the reunion episode, I mentioned something about my mom. She was diagnosed with a form of leukemia last year. She's now cancer free and in recovery, but she had a bone marrow transplant, and that recovery process is not easy. And it was crazy how I put out, you know, or no, I said that on the reunion, and the amount of people that have reached out to me, and I mean, honestly, probably like 1,000 people have reached out to me in the past couple of weeks and have just said, "Hey, um, I have a family member going through this, or I have a family member or a friend who has recently gone through this. Um, we know what it's like praying for your mom, thinking about your mom. If you ever need anything, this is what it is. I've had, I don't know what the company's, it used to be the match, but now I can't remember what it is, but they've reached out, like leukemia foundations have reached out and said, hey, if your mom needs anything, let us know. And it was just like, overwhelming, the support and just kind of what came of that. But it was interesting because I had never really even thought about it, and that's probably on me, but sometimes you don't really think about something like that until it happens to you or to someone very close to you. And because, it happened to my mom, it was now very much like in the forefront of my mind and, our minds. And so, yeah, like leukemia is just something that I never even thought about. And now it's every day we think about it. And every day I get messages from people who are saying that, hey, we're there with you. And so it just showed me that there's a ton of people out there that are going through this. And so if there was anything that, I don't know if it's, partnering with some type of organization like that, or if it's doing something on my own, or if it's just interacting with these people and talking, whatever that looks like. I guess I haven't, I don't really know. I'm just so new to it, and I feel like that's okay. I think the important thing is wanting to do something from that. And so it's been pretty amazing to, have that support from all of these people that I don't know, you know what I mean? But it just showed that it's a very common thing and something that a lot of people go through. And so go ahead.
We had talked about previously, like, so my mom's cancer was caught with a screening procedure. My dad's cancer was caught because he felt like something was growing in his armpit. Daniel's mom was found with routine blood work at a normal physical. She had no symptoms really. We had talked about like just making the appointment and going, and like just taking care of yourself can be the amount of work to do that is so intimidating to people that they just never do.
Yeah.
So like there's an app called ZocDoc, which it's like you open it up, you put in what kind of doctor you need, and it populates with your insurance 50 nearest locations with the appointment times. And you can book it, in 2 seconds, your doctor appointment. Yeah. So we had talked about maybe even like backing an app like that just to
try
realize how easy
and get people to go and do it. Like it takes, 30 minutes to just do it, but people are so scared to do it. It's like, you just got,
where to even start. So just making it as simple as possible.
I love it. I think it's a perfect example, kind of talking about choosing how you want to interact on social media, what you want to stand for. And like every post doesn't need to be, trying to save the world. You can share your marriage, you can share daily life. But I think, Kwame and I talk all the time about the good and the bad of social media. And I think at its most powerful, it is this like connective tissue that allows people to find and share common experience. And I love, Daniel, what you said just about all the folks reaching out. And I think it's that shared human experience. It's people wanting to feel connection. And it's an encouragement to me and to others. Like everyone has a story and everyone has, something to get back to. And I also love like the vulnerability of just saying, I don't necessarily know where to start. I don't know exactly what the right steps are, but like I want to make a meaningful difference and I'm going to put time into this. And I think that like connection of individuals can lead to what those answers are. Like somewhere in those 1,000 people is probably the answer to the next step, or a group of people that can rally around to make a difference. And I think like when you choose brand deals or companies you're going to support or messages that you're going to put out, it's funny because like Kwame mentioned Chelsea and her work, the post that I absolutely love about Chelsea the most is when she speaks deeply about the passion that she has for like helping kids and like being just the good human being that she is. And it's really interesting. And then not to say that I don't like her fun travel posts or whatever, but I think it's this like deep connection, like the deeper meaning of people. And like, I love that it was a foundation for your guys' relationship. And like, you know, often like Love is Blind's got to create a show and it's got to create some like drama and all this other stuff. But like, it is those interesting things that probably make the whole thing work, is those shared common experiences, like the shared trauma, the shared growth, like someone who really knows you and understands you deeply. And when you're not there staring and just being like, wow, she's hot, I'm not really listening to what she has to say, you're like, wow, listen to the emotion about when she talks about her dad and her passion for her patients. And like, I don't know, it all comes together very nicely for me, like in just why this works, why the relationships are strong. And it's this foundation of like actual shared human experience beyond a lot of the superficial and external factors that just make relationships crazy hard to navigate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been given an opportunity and you know, to have people care about what we have to say. And yeah, I like posting fun travel stuff and fun brand deals is awesome, and I hope we get the chance to do that. But how cool is it to have, you know, the opportunity to impact people in such a positive way?
Maybe even save lives.
Yeah, and I mean that's what's so wild is I've never in a million years did I ever think like I might be in a position to where if I can help someone with this, it might actually save someone's life. Like you're a nurse, so you like maybe you deal with that every day, but like to this level, it's very cool, and I just like want to make sure that we steward that, you know, influence well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about who you are as a person, who we are as people, who we are as a population, just we're multifaceted, so many things about us, right? And you can talk about the things that you share that, you know, just bring people joy, right? Like for me, I don't talk about politics as much on my socials because politics is just such a dividing subject. No matter what, you could literally you can make a statement that is 100% true and someone will disagree with it and find a way to, you know what I mean? And so there's so many ways to interact with the audience that you have, right? Back in the, I would say maybe like a few months ago, when I started posting more about like my outfit of the day and the things that I wear, like there was a lady who would always message me, be like, "No one cares about that stuff." I'm like, and ultimately, like it was so funny because I was like, honestly, like I don't care if nobody cares about that stuff. And you know, it is funny because a lot of people actually reach out to me and we have a lot of really great interactions off of like my outfits of the day and stuff. If I ever do stuff like that, I'm very passionate about fashion, as you can tell right over my shoulder. Right. And it's something that I really care about and I love sharing it. And if I share it and out of all of my followers, 2 people care, great. I got to have a great interaction with those 2 people. Right. And then next week, if I talk about travel and only 10 people care, great. I got to have common ground with them. But speaking to Scott's point, right, social media is this fiber that connects all of us that we could feel what each other are feeling. You know what I'm saying? And if it's even to a small audience that you are communicating with, then that's okay. Have that genuine communication with them. And if I want to speak to things that just make me happy and joyful and all the blah, blah, blah happy things for this week, that's great. And then if on Sunday I choose to talk about something that's deep and really, really affected my life and impacted me and why it's really important for you to get checked out and make sure that your health is good, then we talk about that for that day, right? But none of those things singularly has to become my personality. Kwame is Kwame's personality. And within Kwame is all of these things that people can relate to in ways that are just joyful and maybe in ways that can be helpful or life-changing or life-saving. And so that's what's really beautiful about this whole thing is that y'all can get to be yourselves and share all those amazing moments and pictures of Daniel's tattoo.
There's been so much hate for this tattoo. I'm so confused.
So sick.
There's been a lot of support too, but yeah, of course there's gonna be hate. Like, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like
whatever. Oh yeah.
Don't care.
People, man. I mean, one thing that really like enrages me more so than like people know of is the fact that like 2 of my best friends decided to name their daughter Galileo. And then the entire internet was like, why would you name your daughter that? And I'm looking at them like, why in the F do you think you have the right to tell me what to name my daughter?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But people have opinions. People have opinions. Everyone has an opinions. And unfortunately, everyone thinks that their opinion is the right one. So do what you want to do as long as it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's right.
I'm just dying imagining this one lady who's just out there like notifications on.
Yes.
She's ready to go at Kwami's outfit of the day, just sitting like, no one cares.
He's off. Here he is.
Oh.
This is what I've been waiting for.
This outfit sucks.
It's so funny, like funny, vulnerable thing. Like I play music like for a fun hobby, and I like never put it out. And I was like,
He's very talented, very talented.
Marginal at best. I put something out on Instagram, and it was funny because like my friends were like, "Oh, cool! Like you play music, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna put like a thing like what should I play next, or like should I do the next song?" And it was like your 19 nice friends are all like, "Yeah, of course." And then there's one no vote. You can see who voted. And my buddy was like, "No," and I was like, I DM'd him, and I'm like, "Derek, what are you doing? Like, why?" And he's like, "Not everyone can vote yes, dude. That's not how the world works." And he was like, it's not even that I don't like your music. It's like, I don't stand for 100% positive polls. You shouldn't just be reinforced too positively. And I was like, there's always got to be the one person in the world who's like, you know what, that tattoo, no. You like, good luck trying to be sweet, whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to hate on you for hating's sake. But
Scott, your next poll, you just make the options yes and yes. There's no option.
I think, but I honestly think like those moments, like the haters on the tattoo, the haters in a relationship, whatever it might be, it's like so freeing when you move past that moment. Yeah. Because then you just don't care. You're just there is a moment when it's just like maybe there's real hate and there is like real attacking, but like the kind of like soft internet troll hate, I think that for a lot of people, there's a moment where you're just kind of like, okay, that was a fun experience. Now I'm past it. And I'm just like, there's like a renewed confidence that comes out of it. And so like, I hope, you know, if you guys haven't found that yet, like between all this that's going on, like you guys are an amazing couple. Like there's a very clear reason why you found success and why people love you so much. And yeah, it's been amazing getting to know y'all, but I would just say like, be happy, be confident, and just like own that you guys have a great life and you found the person you're supposed to be with. And that's freaking awesome.
We did.
Look at Scott. The Scott's always got the knowledge. It's why we have him on this podcast, actually.
I thought it was my good looks. I don't know.
Man, but you know, we've had such a great conversation. You know, we're getting to the tail end of this. We don't want to keep y'all too long. You know, the hour plus, but you know, just a couple questions now, just as we think about how your lives will be impacted just by the world around you and society and social media and the opportunities that you'll get. A couple questions that we like to ask, right? Well, we'll call them rapid fire. A couple questions about social, and then a couple questions about your lives, right? Okay. But if you could work with one brand anywhere in the world, who would it be?
Go for it.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell. That's my answer.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. The thing that I'm probably most passionate about, other than my wife, is the game of golf. And I mean, any golf brand, you know, Titleist or TaylorMade, you know, anything like those types of brands.
TaylorMade, yeah.
Gotta get you out to the kingdom for a fitting with Trotty. I don't. TaylorMade crushes on the social game. They have an amazing social media team.
I know. I use TaylorMade clubs, so
shout out.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm not as good at golf as you or Scott. Scott's pretty good as well, but if it were to happen, look, I think that there's a way to slot us three into a TGL team. To go up against Tiger. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's out there. I'm throwing the idea out there. Okay.
Manifest it. Make it happen.
I could get behind that for sure.
All right. And then two last questions. I feel like that hit closer to home. What is your favorite movie?
Our favorite movie is the same movie.
We said it in the pods.
Yeah.
Did we say it at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We both love Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Solid.
A close second for me is Remember the Titans.
Oh my gosh. That's my number one sports movie ever for sure.
Great one.
Yeah, great choices. And then lastly, favorite quote.
Mine fits like crazy similar with my other everything being a nurse. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Gandhi said that. I found that quote when I was going into travel nursing and COVID units, and it was like this really scary world. And my previous engagement had just ended, and I sold my house, and I was just starting over with life, and I was kind of lost, honestly, of who I was. And so I found that quote when I just dove into this new stage, and it's just stuck with me ever since. So service of others, yeah.
Mine's much more simple. It's just something that my dad just always instilled. It's just you have not because you ask not, and it can be applied to so many areas of your life. Like I used it a lot in business and sales. It's like you have to ask for something if you want it, but you can use it in everyday life. It's like don't be afraid to ask.
I love that. As a firm believer of you create your own luck, you create your own destiny. I think people undersell their potential not only through like lack of putting in the work, but just by not asking for opportunity. And I think there's a fine line between like entitlement and being willing to shoot your shot. I think those are two fundamentally different things. I would encourage everyone though, shoot your shot and be willing to like put in the work to go when the yes comes. Very different than asking for it without being willing to put in the work and expecting things to be delivered to you. And I'm always willing to ask the question, but I think it equally important is show up and do the work that seals that opportunity. So I love those quotes. Those are amazing. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you both. We set out to not have just the same old vanilla interview asking you the same questions. And I felt like we got to know you really, really well and hear a lot about your story and what you stand for. And it's great. I'll be curious to see how the next kind of stage of life goes. We'll have to maybe do an update and see where you're at in your social media journey, how the causes are going, and do a check-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was super fun, you guys. Thank you so much for having us. It was definitely different than other podcasts we've done. So that was great.
We will take that as a compliment. And with that being said, since you gave us one, I'll give y'all one. Y'all were an absolute pleasure to have. Great conversation, and obviously an incredibly beautiful couple. So thank y'all for joining us today. Until next time, we will see y'all later. Bye-bye.